Fam, what's up? We are back on the CEO's Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We're sitting down here with Tony Javier. He's a good friend of mine, and he's also a mastermind colleague. He's the founder of Real Estate Masters Education. He's also the founder of 10X TV, which is a really interesting marketing channel for real estate investors. I want to break into that and really like squeeze all the juice out of that conversation, because I think we're at a very important point where marketing is really the engine of most businesses out there, especially in real estate. You're also you're part of the Inc. 5000 list when it comes to business. You've done over 1,000 deals, been in real estate for the last 20 years. So you have an extensive background on this thing, man. I appreciate you stopping by and sharing golden nuggets with us.
Absolutely, man. It's good to be here, dude.
It started off a little rough, but we got it. We got back on track. Man, give us some context on how you got started in real estate and what's happened since day one.
Yeah, so like you said, 20 years in real estate. Bought a course, late night TV. Carlton Sheets, no down payment system. $200 course. They had just converted the tapes to CDs, to give you an idea how old it is.
Yeah.
Right? So I bought the course. It was, 10, 12 CDs, something like that. And in a big book, the 3-ring binder, just a simple course, man. It just taught you how to buy properties with no money down. And when I hear people to this day say, "Man, I just don't have the money to buy real estate."
Yeah.
And when I started 20 years ago, I was waiting tables, had maybe $1,000 in my account, bought a $200 course, and figured out how to buy properties with no money down. Right.
Yeah.
So through the last 20 years, I've just been buying properties with no money down to this day. And growing it from my lonesome, the first, probably 2 to 3 years, then started hiring people and went through that whole pain of figuring out how to hire people. Even to this day, I don't have it completely down to a science. I'm a lot better, obviously, but grew a staff. And then the thing that sucked for the first 10 years is I had to fire my staff twice, my whole staff.
The entire staff?
The entire staff.
Why?
The first time it was a small staff of 3. I had 2 brothers that were just, looking back, I'm like, why would I hire those? Like, I would never hire those guys today, right? If they wanted to make $10 to $12 an hour, I'd hire them. I wanted some people really cheap that could work for a cheap wage, and I found that it was costing me money instead of hiring people at that time, $15 an hour would have been like a pretty high quality person.
Yeah.
Whereas I was trying to fish at the bottom of the barrel at $10 to $12.
Yeah.
So just even that little bump in pay would have been just a different mindset of a person, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the first time, I had a couple brothers, and then I had an admin working for me, fired them. The second time, 10 years in business, was the most painful. It's because I had 5 people working for me and fired them all within 30 days, I want to say. Again, 2 brothers, so that's a big mistake. Is once you get one person on, they try and get someone else in there.
Yeah.
Unless they're just like an A player, do not bring their family in. Right?
Yeah.
They have to be like an AA player. So I had a C player, C players bringing in C players, right, or worse. And so and then I had my personal assistant stealing from me, and so fired my whole staff within 30 days and had to start all over. It went from like felt like I was going here. I was probably going more like here, because the people that I had with me. But I felt like I was growing a team and I was like having a business.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I had to take it all back. And so I went through this huge depression and just like, God, I'm a huge failure. And just, all those stories you tell yourself when you have stuff like that happen. But it was one of the best things that happened, because I ended up going to my sister, who'd been with her company for, I think that at that time, 10 or 12 years. She'd ran that whole company, right? And so I said, hey, will you come over? Like, I'm going to pay you. At the time, it was probably twice as much as anybody had ever paid, and which honestly wasn't. It was a lot of money at that time to me, because I'd hired such low level people, and it just completely changed the game. She just on the back end just cleaned all kinds of stuff up, freed me up so much, and then I could make another hire, and then eventually about 4 or 5 years later, I was able to step out of the business where the whole business ran without me.
Man, there's a couple of things I want to unpack in there. So it goes to show, right? You've been in it for 20 years. The second time you kind of had to restructure was 10 years into it.
Mm-hmm.
So longevity is huge. What like people jump into entrepreneurship and often expect to have this fantabulous business running within a year or two, and then all the kinks are worked out and whatnot. The tenacity that it takes, that internal conversation that we need to have with ourselves, like time and time and time again. It's it doesn't go away. 20 years into it, you're still talking about not having everything dialed in and figured out. Obviously, you're performing at much higher levels now. You have multiple companies, running masterminds and 1,000 deals into the thing. Yet that need for improvement is always there. I think that's one of the superpowers. Really, that real entrepreneurs have, man. It's that desire to keep improving upon everything that we create.
And it's never ending. Because
Yeah.
I went through something similar 3 years ago, like even just 3 years ago, where I had 15 employees, and all of a sudden I'd overstaffed a little bit, so I wasn't watching that was a big lesson, is not watching like the numbers and like what I really needed. I thought I needed 15 people. I really only needed like 5 probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had some really slow months. I mean, in real estate, if you have 15 people and you have a marketing machine, you have a big beast to feed. You have to bring in 6 figures to even get close to breaking even, right?
Yeah.
Per month.
Yep.
And so we had like 3 really slow months, like really slow. And so I had to like make some huge changes. I went down to 3 people in my company. And again, it was a really tough time again, because I'm like, holy crap, I now have to reset again, right?
Yeah.
But the lessons from the previous 2 carried into the third one. And even with the third one, I didn't realize the lesson till later, or many lessons. And one of them was, I need to create more than just this business and a couple other businesses, right? I mean, I had one main business and a couple other smaller businesses. So it forced me to get out and say, what is the other thing that if something like this happens again, I've got something else that is, carrying me through. And so I realized I was putting all my eggs in one basket, and I was thinking too small. And so I started looking at other businesses and created what I call now 10X TV. And it's licensing TV commercials around the United States. And whether my businesses are up or down, it brings in almost the same amount of money every single month, because we license what we do, and it creates consistent cash flow. So had that not happened, I may not have this business that is really something that we've really exploded over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, and then that's incredible, man. Having multiple streams of income it's crucial, right? Especially when you have the overhead and the responsibility of a team. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, 20 people, right? Real estate has the ability to make you real quick, but also break you real quick if you don't fine tune and you don't keep tabs of the overhead, of the expenses, the flow of things. It can be a very zealous, type of industry in that form. I wanna ask you about the mindset that walked you through the last 20 years, ups and downs, and then just kind of having, I'm sure you get that, or you've gotten that feeling of reset, like, man, shit, I got to start from square one again, a few times throughout the process. I know I have, and I've been in it also, around 20 years, 18, something like that, 19 years as an entrepreneur. So it's sometimes it becomes familiar, right? But how do you deal with setbacks and that internal conversation?
It's still a struggle to this day. I mean, something happens, you kind of go back to the familiar of kicking yourself and saying, why did I let that happen? Or what am I going to do now? And then you realize, like, for me, it's like, I have resilience. Like, to be in business for 20 years, most businesses don't last a year to 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? So I just know now that if something happens, I'm always going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Most millionaires, I think they say, go bankrupt at least once, if not twice in their career. And luckily I never had to do that. I never had to go bankrupt, but I always had, there was 3 times I had to reset big time. And if it happens again, I know that, every time I had to reset, it's just like a trampoline. It's like I just had to go down to get back up to a certain level again.
Yeah.
And you learn lessons and you go through it and you become stronger for it.
And it's interesting stats, man. Most entrepreneurs just fall off the wagon within the first 3 years. Most people who branch out to do their own thing, launch their own businesses, they'll go into battle for about 3 years and then just kind of feather out. But longevity is I mean, it goes to show again the tenacity that you've been able to stick with, right? Because that's what it takes. You went from buzzing tables to owning a plane. I mean, you flew in this morning to a podcast in your plane. So I mean, it's.
And if you had told me 3 years ago I'd own a plane and be flying, all over the country to do different things, I'd be like, that's crazy, just because I had to reset so far back. But again, it was just a trampoline to get to another level. Yeah,
it's kind of like the arrow, bow and arrow effect, right? Yeah, you're pulling back on that arrow, and the arrow looks like it's going back, but it's to gain momentum. If you take it right, if you take the perspective of whatever challenges we come across, if you use them as a launching platform or as that string that's being pulled back for that arrow to go faster and straightforward, more accurate. I mean, what stops us, right? You know what I mean?
100%.
So
100%.
I love it, man. So you saw a need in marketing. Obviously, you were in real estate. You started, talking about the challenges. And this is, I'm assuming here, but probably the question came up like, how can I do better marketing? How can I? Because I mean, we have traditional means of marketing, cold calling, text messaging, and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody who's in real estate out there understands, the challenges of that. And you totally took a different route. You went down the TV. And actually, I have students who've used your services, and I mean they crushed it in very, very competitive markets. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that, and that's 10x TV, right?
Yeah, it's transitioned
Which
into
I'm rocking.
10x TV, and I came up with the 10x.
Rocking the gear here.
Absolutely, man. So I came up with the 10x. Not necessarily. I mean, I've gotten it over 10x return in some years, and a lot of our clients are getting over 10x return. But it's more 10x means getting in front of 10 times more people. Mm-hmm. 10 times faster, and I feel like 10 times easier than a lot of other marketing channels with 10 times more authority and branding, right? So
that's huge right there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last 20 years, I mean, I'm like, why did I go down the difficult path of so many things?
Yeah. And
so when I talk to people about TV, they're like, I've been texting and cold calling, and like, I'll go through 100 leads to get a deal or 50 leads to get a deal. Or I'm managing my texters and cold callers for 4 hours a day, and it's like, dude, we get TV commercials set up, we get them set up right with the data that I have over the last 10 years that I've been on TV, and we're able to not only get them results, get them easier, faster, and help them build their brand and authority in that market, and help all their other forms of marketing. I mean, there's no other marketing channel that I know of that can do that. I mean, if you have a lot of Instagram followers, like that's a whole different thing because that's so hard. But like TV commercials, I feel like do all of that. Good return, give you that authority, give you that branding and recognition. They're, if you get them set up right, you're not having to redo anything for 3, 6, sometimes even 12 to 18 months. I've had commercials run for like 18 months, the same commercial, and still gotten results and kept it. And so let me tell you the story on the way it happened. So 10 years ago, I met a guy at a networking event, became good friends with him, and he invited me to a poker game. And so I go downstairs into the basement where we're having this poker table set up, and there's this guy that I noticed from TV. I'm like, that guy's on TV commercials, and you get that whole like celebrity factor in your, thing in your head. And I'm like, man, and so I start talking to him. I'm like, hey man, dude, like your TV commercials. I'm like, how do they do for you? And he's like, oh, they crush it. He's like, that's all the marketing we do, and we do $2 million worth of construction business just from our TV commercials. And so I started drilling him about it. He goes, these questions you're asking, my media guy Drew can help you out. Just talk to him about it. And so I call him up that Monday, because I think that was a Saturday the poker game was. And I was like, hey man, heard you're the TV guy. Like, tell me about this. And he's like, yeah, tell me about your business. So he's like, for probably a few $1,000s a month, I could probably get you hundreds of commercials a month. And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty impressive for $3,000 a month.
Meaning like imprints and spots on
spots. Yeah. So commercial 30-second commercials. Yeah. So I can get hundreds of those every single month. So at least 10 times a day, right? Yeah. And so he goes and negotiates with the station. He's like, here's what I got you. And I'm like, this is great. And he's like, just tell me, put a script together. I'll put, we'll work on the graphics. We'll kind of work on the production together. And within 30 days, I was on TV, and I became a celebrity in my market pretty much overnight. People would recognize me. They'd be like, "Hey, you're the TV guy," And not only that, but month one, I spent $3,000 and made $35,000. So 10x, right?
Yeah.
And And it's I feel like if I had not found TV, I probably wouldn't be in real estate today, just because everything else has become so competitive, and it's helped all my everything else I do in my business, whether it's working with contractors, they treat you differently. Private money lenders, it's easier to raise private money when they know you're on TV, or if they say, "Hey, I've seen you on TV," that's an easy conversation.
Isn't that crazy, man? Just the the assumed edification that happens. Hell, I mean, if you have a half decent YouTube channel with some content in there, somebody watches and then they see you on TV, like that happens, and I've gotten tastes of that. But going as big as TV really just plants the seed of just automatically of edification and authority. It's interesting how that works, man.
Yeah, our clients will reach out and they'll be like, we'll reach out to them and be like, hey, how are things doing? Oh, great, man. I've had people just congratulate me for being on TV. It's like once you're on TV, it's like you've made
it. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you made it, I think, more when you get paid to be on TV, but nonetheless, that's the perception, is that like you're crushing it. You're doing really well because you're on TV, which is the case most of the time. They're doing pretty well. But we've had some newer investors that we try not to get newer investors too much into TV, just because we can drive leads, they just have to convert. So we want people that can convert. But even newer investors, they'll be like, man, people think we're just doing amazing because we're on TV, and it's just that perception.
Well, it's that, but I also think that we're in a stage of society right now that it matters who you're doing business with, right? And in our space, it's not uncommon to see people deal with somebody else over the phone, right? They never see a face, especially like, for example, they're doing virtual wholesaling or real estate and whatnot. They never meet face to face. They never put that relationship together other than that voice on the phone. And I think having the exposure out there and then just being on TV and being absolutely open about your image, who you are, your brand, that sort of thing, it just creates automatic rapport in that sense. It's interesting how people feel like they know you when they've never met you face to face before. They just they've listened to stuff that you have, or videos, or commercials and stuff like that. So it's I think that dynamic is also playing a lot into that transparency factor.
Yeah, I think subconsciously people think if you're on TV, one, you have the money to do it. Two, you have a legit business.
Right. And you're not hiding.
And three, you're not hiding. You're not like, your face is out there, right? People know who you are. It's not like, someone trying to do something backhanded and trying to hide who they are, right? Because that does happen in business. So yeah, I mean, the way that people's conversation are with you when you're on TV, like people will say, when I have a direct mail lead compared to a TV lead, they're like, the TV conversations are so much easier. Yeah. Not only the lead's better qualified, because if they're watching TV and they take the time to pick up the phone and call you, they're serious. Yeah. And then two, when they have that conversation, it's like they already know you and your company, and they don't have to drill you of like, how long have you been in business, or those questions that they may ask, and it's just immediate. They've already qualified you. You're already qualified. Sometimes they're talking you into doing business with them. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the biggest things to do that we do is we try to dequalify people, and it often turns into a convincing from them why we need to do business together, right? Mm-hmm. It just depends on the relationship that you build and the that connection. So man, it's interesting because, for example, TV is one side of marketing that I haven't tapped into. Mm-hmm. I've done a bunch of different ones: direct mail, pay per click, and SMS, cold calling, radio, but TV is it's just one thing that I haven't explored, and it's which I am now, but it's. It's interesting how that whole dynamic just kind of works. What does somebody need to have for them to be a good TV ad or a candidate?
Yeah, so here's the thing. The TV has a higher barrier of entry, right? Mm-hmm. Because number one, most people don't think about it. Yeah. Two, if they think about it, they think it's too expensive. And then maybe they're like, well,
get intimidated.
Yeah, or I don't have a face for TV. Like I shouldn't be on TV. I'm just.
I have a radio face.
Yeah, face for radio.
Yeah,
right?
Well, my English is kind of jacked up, so I'm screwed either way.
Oh no, it'd be fine. But you have to have, the thing is, you have to have like TV commercials, because we've simplified it. Like we can look at it and do it in our sleep. But the average person just coming out of the gate, had I not had Drew, my media buyer, who's my partner in this 10X TV company, had I not had him to guide me through the process and tell me what I needed to do, I would have had no idea what stations to be on, what shows to be on. We actually have people come to us and they're like, my commercials aren't working. And it's like, okay, well, show us what your commercials are. And then usually it's their commercial's not very good, right? Because you got to have an easy to remember phone number, easy to remember website. You have to have a clear message. You have 30 seconds to get your message across. So if it's not clear and you have a good call to action, it's not going to work. So that's just one thing. And then I'll say, show me your schedules. They're on the wrong stations or shows. You know, some people try and get on HGTV because they think people are there looking to flip houses. Well, they are, but they're usually higher income. They have the money to go flip houses or to remodel their house. Our demographic does not do that.
The avatar is different.
Totally different. And then I had signed someone up last week, or they became a client, and they're like, I'm spending, I think it was either $5,000 or $6,000 a month, and I'm getting 50 commercials a month. And I'm like, and I looked it up. We had another client in that market, so we can do multiple clients per market. And I was like, we're getting like 500 commercials per month. We're getting 10x. 10 times.
Keeps coming back.
We're getting 10 times more commercials for the same ad spend. And we're getting, they're on one station, we're getting them on like 3 or 4 stations, right? So there's a lot to it. So if you were to go and call the stations yourself, you're not going to know who to trust. You're not going to know what stations and shows to be on. And even if you try and figure all that out, it's going to take trial and error. So I went through 10 years of tweaking everything I did, or actually 8 years before I launched the program, to figure out what worked and didn't work. And we started plugging in other markets, and the formula we came up with worked. And so that's kind of how it came about. Is a couple years ago, someone said, you need to show other people what you're doing. And so I went to my media guy, Drew, and I said, hey, if I show people my data and what I'm doing and find clients, will you help me fulfill the back end, negotiate with the stations, and do it turnkey? And that's how 10X.
Well, and you have the track record of over 1,000 deals, right, to prove it. So, so one of the questions that just kind of keeps bubbling up is what happens if when you don't have like the right approach, right? When you don't have the relationships built, you don't know exactly who to go to. It just kind of reminds me of the initial conversation you were having about the team. Right, it's kind of like going for that low end or lower end tiered type of employee who's going to have less responsibility, less results, and less and seen as an expense. But when you shift it and you make an investment in higher quality people, more trained, more responsibility, more results, better results come in. It's the same thing, right? When you're tapping into for example, a service like yours. It's not really. I don't see marketing. I used to call it an expense. Now I just reframe my mindset to business. If I stop that side of my business, nothing else works. Nothing else works. Doesn't matter how badass the rest of the machine is, how great of a closer I can be, or I am, and how great my dispositions team is, or the team that I have for the rehabs. It doesn't matter. Because that one piece is not working accurately, man. So it's imperative that you have a system in place, a process in place to source and go after those deals out there. Are you guys only working with what's your ideal avatar, like the ideal client?
Ideal client is the perfect client. So when someone comes to me and they're like, we're doing 5+ deals a month, we're doing 3 to 4 other marketing channels, even 2 other marketing channels is probably good. We've got a team in place that can close deals, or even if it's them closing the deals, as long as they're good closers. That's usually a good avatar. Someone that's experienced that's doing deals, right? So like for us, when we launch commercials, I'm not saying our system is perfect, but typically when someone comes and they want to pause or cancel because they're not getting results, it's not because of lack of leads. They'll come to us and they'll be like, hey, we got 90 leads these last 3 months and we only closed 2 deals. I'm like, I don't know if that's a lead issue. I can't say 100%, but like,
because these are inbound leads.
These are good quality inbound leads. So if you're getting 90 leads, you should be converting 1 out of every 10 to 20. So they should have done, even if the numbers were not good, they should have done 4 deals, which 4 deals would have put them into the category of like a good return as opposed to just like an okay or not, just maybe breaking even kind of thing.
Yeah, covering expenses kind of.
Yeah. And
result.
so we like the investors that we know are doing deals. If they have multiple exit strategies, that's even better. If they do rentals, flips, wholesaling, we know that they have more options.
There's a way to skin the cat there.
100%. They have their real estate license. They can close deals and usually pay for their ad spend just from those deals. What was the other thing I was just thinking of? Multiple ways to close deals, and they they know how to figure out if leads come in, to figure out how to close them. That's the big thing.
You got to have that closing skill set. So there's a big difference, and everybody out there listening, right? There's a difference between inbound leads and going after the sellers. Like when we're cold calling, we're texting, direct mail and that sort of. Well, direct mail is kind of a mix, but we're going after the sellers. So we get a ton of rejection. Maybe the people that we do get a hold of, they may not be necessarily ready right there and then. So maybe in a month, 6 months or whatever. So the quality of the lead when you're going out there and hunting, right, for leads, it's going to be different. It's just going to be by nature of the beast, is going to be a lower quality lead. You have to work them a little more. It's going to be a lot more rejection. But when you have inbound leads that are coming at you for business, they decided to pick up the phone and call you because they saw you on TV. It's a higher quality lead just by the nature of the beast again. So it's important to understand, right? The lead count is going to matter. Your closing skills are also going to matter in there. So I think it's a great approach to somebody who has the ability to close deals and actually work a pipeline like that, and not leave deals or leads that are falling through the cracks. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. What's in the works for the next couple of years? I mean, you have 10X TV, which is you're crushing it, and that thing has blown up over the last couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. So you've seen impressive growth, and the mastermind. You also have an education business. What else do you have in the works?
Yeah, so TV has done really well for real estate investing. So that's what we focus on right now. We have over 100 real estate investors that are running TV commercials with us right now. Most of them getting a 5 to 10x return, and we have a lot of clients getting 10 to 20x plus returns. I mean, it's insane because there's some markets where you can spend like $5,000 a month and make 50 to 100 grand a month. I mean, some of our clients are doing those numbers. And again, a lot of it has to do with them closing. Like we can drive the leads if they're vicious closers,
follow up type of stuff.
It's a difference between maybe someone getting a 3x return and getting a 20x return. Right. You know what I mean? There could be that much variance. So knowing what I know with TV now and the fact that not a lot of people think about it. Yeah. A lot of people go, is TV dead? And I'm like, no, YouTube TV. If TV was dead, YouTube TV wouldn't have invested all that money to create YouTube TV, which is basically like Cox or Comcast or those different service providers. It's the same thing. TV's not dead, and our demographic, which is 50 plus, is, I mean, even if our avatar stops watching TV, it's going to be when they all die, and it's it's those people that watch TV growing up. And they're always watching TV. Like if you go in an older person's house, they're probably on their
the TV's on.
TV's
always on. It's always on. They're they're not even watching the show. They're just listening to stuff, and then they, something will catch their attention, come back and look at it.
Totally, exactly, yeah.
I tease my wife because she has that. She turns on old people shows. I call them old people shows in the morning, but she'll be cooking, and then she'll be listening to like Wheel of Fortune.
Even the younger demographic does it, but especially the older demographic. That's the way. Because when they had a TV and they had the ability to watch TV, they had it on all the time. It's like, wow, this is a huge privilege, right?
So it takes me to, and I don't want to interrupt, but I know I'm gonna forget. It takes me to another point, and as far as the avatar, you said 50 and over. That's interesting. How else are you gonna reach that demographic? Not all of them are in social media. Not all of them are on Instagram. They may have Facebook, but it's
some don't have cell phones, or they have flip phones.
Yeah,
or they don't
exactly.
know how to work their phone, or that.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
So okay, wow. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So the next thing is. Taking it to the masses is how do we develop a system that works for most businesses, right? Because if it works for real estate investing, which most people, when I tell them, over the last 10 years, I've told people what is your number one marketing channel? I'm like, TV commercials. They're like, what? I don't know anybody else doing TV commercials, right? So it's an unknown channel, and it's not an easy channel because of the factors I told you. You have to pick the right shows, the stations, you have to produce it, you have to come up with the right scripts, you have to, like, even the smartest people really smart people I've seen come to us, they're like, there's one guy that came to us, super smart guy. He's like, I'm spending X amount of dollars in a big market and I can't get it to work. And we're like, we looked at his commercial and we're like, holy crap, he did so many things wrong.
Yeah.
Then we looked at his schedule. So we fixed it for him. And now he's in, I think, at least 5 markets with us, spending like $175,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the difference between him maybe stopping commercials and them not working and going somewhere else and making it work. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm getting at is that we are going to figure out how to scale this to the masses. So it's not just real estate investors we're servicing, but it's also other business owners. So
yeah, it's gonna be huge, man. I think that, like, for example, and I never considered, like, seriously considered using TV as one of the main methods of marketing, but because the next thought after, what about TV? The next thought was, that's too complicated. It's too complicated. I wouldn't know where to start. That sort of thing. And I know I'm good at talking to people and having conversations, and you can crush the phones, and that's kind of like, the standard, right? But we're in a pivoting stage right now where you need to get more creative as far as how you reach out to people, right? That's one. The other one is, I keep going back to that sense of authority and transparency. People want to see the face. They want to see who they're doing business with, right? They're going to see you on TV, and they're going to look you up on social media. They're going to, they're going to find out and do some research. People Google people all the time, right? That's one way to do it. Now, if your presence or your overall brand is it's synchronized throughout a couple of different channels, and you have the exposure on TV, good business and testimonials and that sort of thing, and you start actually putting the effort in to build up the brand. I think, it's a no-brainer, because by the time people call you, a lot of that rapport is already built.
100%, yeah.
In terms of brand building, give me a couple of pointers on what people can do to start edifying themselves as a brand.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. Obviously, I'm going to say TV commercials. Like, branding, to me, TV commercials are number one. We do billboards in our market too. So I actually own a commercial property. We have a big digital billboard on it, so I'm able to utilize that. There's some other things you can do with PR and press, and radio is actually good when we do radio commercials too. And we're actually, that's another thing, is we're going to start implementing radio commercials for our clients. But branding, really branding, there's a lot of different things you can do with branding. Like, for instance, this logo here, my team, I hired a marketing team this last 9 months for this new company. And this is the brand they came up with. Before, it was our old Real Estate Masters logo with a 10X TV in it, and it just didn't stick out. So they went back to
this
the drawing
pops,
board,
man. I like that green.
And they're like, boom. It's like, man, look at that. Like, people will remember that, right? So that's part of it, is logo and that kind of thing. We have families that are in our TV commercials, meaning we have husband and wife and their kids in it, and it's just done phenomenal for those clients. So that could be part of the branding, is how does your commercial look? So now we've tested, a bunch of different looks of our commercials and the people in it, stuff like that. So we have that formula, and we're able to plug it in. So how do you want it to look? Do you want you to be a solo entrepreneur, or do you want to have your family in it as if you're a family business? Right? So when that family comes on, everybody knows who they are. If they've seen it before, they know who that is, right? We also do, for me, not all of our clients do this, but I do a jingle at the end of our commercial.
What?
A little jingle, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just a 5-second jingle at the end, and people remember it. So now when we want to do 15-second commercials, we can do that because we have a little jingle at the end that people will remember it.
Yeah.
And
you can't leave me hanging, bro. What's the jingle?
So don't steal this, but no. Professional home buyers calling us pays to get your cash in days. And it's just a saying, right?
Yeah.
It's a guy that sings, or a girl that sings it.
Yeah.
So people remember
nice.
it. And actually, our guys that have our shirts on,
Yeah.
our maintenance guys, will go into like a gas station and people start singing it to them, so people remember it, right?
Yeah.
And then now that we do radio, we put that in the radio, so now they can correlate it with our TV commercial.
Synchronicity, man. Synchronicity across. Yeah.
And that's the thing with branding and business that it took me a long time to really do, is you've got to have all of your branding work together, right? Because like now we have our postcards that not only have our logos on it, but now we can put as seen on TV on everything, right? And now people are like, oh, I got a postcard. Oh, those are people on TV.
Yeah.
Oh, here's, even if we do pay-per-click, we send them to a website. This is as seen on TV. Oh, those are the guys from TV.
Omnipresence.
And it all looks the same, and omnipresence, absolutely. It all works together. Yeah.
Man, I love it. Before we wrap up, I wanna ask you a couple of questions. In terms of the journey, the path. I mean, everything that you've been able to do since you were buzzing tables 20 years ago. I mean, it has been nothing short of impressive, right? You're running multiple businesses again. You're no stranger to 14-hour days. What are perhaps give me the best piece of advice that you would give somebody else who's thinking of becoming an entrepreneur?
So you said 14-hour days. That was my first 10 to 15 years, right? And so now,
what?
8 hours.
But you were an entrepreneur. You were a CEO.
Yeah.
You should have been working 2-hour days. It's not how it goes.
It can be. It can be a transition to that, right? Because
but not at the if you're bootstrapping.
I mean, can it happen in the beginning? Sure, but the less if I could take what I know now, and go back 20 years, then I could probably get away with 4-hour days just because
Well, now you have the knowledge, but you would be bootstrapping a business. Most people, when you're bootstrapping, that's...
You got to work some longer hours, for sure. But I think that's a misnomer is people are like, man, you got to put in, 14-hour days. And you may in the beginning, but there's a point where you have to figure out how to work smarter and balance. Like the people that say that they work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and they feel energized, very few people can do that. Tony Robbins can probably do that. He's a different animal, right? But most people don't have the mental capacity to do that and to be able to have a life and spend time with their family.
Finding that counterbalance,
Yeah, I mean, as a single guy, I could probably work 14-hour days right now, but as a husband and a father, there's no way I'd be able to do that. Yeah. So figuring out how to get things done smarter without you having to be involved. If something comes across, text, email, phone call, whatever it is, I don't want to come up with a solution. I do part of the time just because it's easy. I'm like, hey, call or, send this out or put this in there, right? But it's more like call Kelsey. She knows how to do that. Call Tina. Ask her. She can go into QuickBooks and find that information out for you. I don't want to go in there and do everything and find every detail and that kind of thing. Because that's what happens with an entrepreneur and CEO is they're the bottleneck. They have people going to them for everything. Yeah. And if they try and cater to everybody, they're going to cater to nobody, right? Yeah. Because they're not going to be able to grow their business. They're not going to be present with their people. They're going to be stressed. They're not going to be able to make better decisions. And so for me, it's how do I do more by doing less? Yeah. I mean, talking about a plane, I'll take half a day off and go flying. I'll take half a day off and go play pickleball. There's probably a couple days a week where I'll just quit half a day and just go do something fun and just clear my head and
reset.
And I have people that are doing the things behind the scenes to keep things going. So, there's some in the beginning, some hours that need to be put in, but at some point you got to figure out how to balance it out.
It's interesting. That's the exact same advice that somebody gave me when I was getting started. And the way they phrased it was, think from the end. And now we see it in books and all that stuff. This is 20 years ago, 19 years ago. Think, reverse engineer everything. And when you go through things, go through them as if you were only going to go through them once and then have somebody else do them. So from that day forward, everything I did, if I was pulling a list, if I was, whatever I was doing, I was documenting. It was just bullet point stuff, back then, step 1, step 2, step 3. But what that got me into, the habit of creating processes and systems for every single thing. And I ended up with a very systemized, just kind of, mental approach as far as the thought process. And that helps. I mean, it helps empower people, right? Your team, if they have a blueprint to go after, they don't have to figure out, what they're doing every single time. So it saves you headaches. It empowers the team around you, and then productivity just goes up. I love it. My favorite question, man, it's and this one's for you, not for entrepreneurs out there, right? It's if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what piece of advice would you tell that kid?
Oh my gosh, I love this because I wish I could do that.
Yeah,
I wish I could do that. I think number one would probably be, I think two big things. One would be you're going to figure it out. Like, no matter what happens, you're going to get kicked, because people think that successful people, it's just like this.
Yeah.
Right? And it's easy and it looks fun. And, you look at these people doing different things and you don't know what their life's like. You don't know if it's a shit show behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You don't know if their wife's leaving them. You don't know,
Right.
just know that stuff's going to happen and just, figure out how to deal with it. Talk to people, get a support system. Like, I didn't have a support system for 10 years. It took me actually at least about 10 years to hire a coach, right? I didn't want to invest the money. It took me 10 years to hire people. In the past, would be like, hire a coach.
Was it a stigma issue? It was totally a stigma issue for me.
It
was.
was.
No, they want to take advantage of me.
No, for me, it was money. It was like, why would I pay someone $5 or $10 grand for advice when I can spend that $5 or $10 grand on marketing or something like that? Just that.
You can Google it and find out.
Now I spend, 50 to 100 grand a year on masterminds and coaching and stuff like that, and it comes back many times in return. Yeah,
right? It's insane. The perspective that you get from somebody even a couple of steps ahead of you is incredible, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that would probably be number one. Number two is ways to deal with stress. So if you don't notice, my breathing was different, right? It took me up until this last probably 2 to 3 years to realize my breathing was horrible. Breathing is huge. I'm not going to go into a whole breathing class here, but you can look, Lewis Howes has some good guests that talk about breathing, but just the way you breathe, when I get stressed, my chest goes down and I get really shallow. Yeah. And it's worse because now I'm breathing really shallow and it's creating more stress and I'm not getting enough oxygen in my head. Now I realize when I'm stressed, I just need to figure out if I'm breathing right, getting enough oxygen, reset, and then meditating. Meditating and naps. Dude, I love naps. I just love naps.
Naps are the best.
It's dude, if you are stressed and you can't figure something out, instead of pushing through and trying to pick up the phone and call people and figure stuff out, dude, just take 15 minutes.
Disconnect.
Just sit on the couch, lay down, meditate, take a walk. Your whole day will change. Yeah. Your whole day. So those are two things off the top of my head.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm huge also on the power of breathing. Your biology will just on how you're feeling physically. Dictates a lot of the how you're feeling mentally and emotionally, right? If your arm hurts, you're not gonna have a relaxed mindset. Something's gonna be, pulling or drawing away that attention. Breathing plays a big role into it. Throughout the day, I got into the habit of taking intentional deep breaths, and I don't know, I think, and then I just fill up my lungs, and then that's it's
4 seconds in, then take at least 6 out, because the more breath you take out, the more at least 6 out. Because the more breath you take out, the more parasympathetic 6 out. Because the more breath you take out, the more parasympathetic you get into, and your body relaxes.
We did, and I was at a Tony Robbins event. We did this exercise with Wim Hof, and
Wim Hof was there.
Yeah, sick.
That's crazy.
And he's like, yeah, by the time we're done, in 15 minutes, I'm going to have you holding your breath for, it's going to be over a minute and a half. I'm like, there's no way. I'm not going to hold my breath for a minute and a half. Right. So I started doing the thing, and we're taking deep breaths, right? And then letting it go, just not to completion, but just releasing, and you still have some still, left in the lungs. Right, and then take another deep. So we kept expanding the lungs. Dude, I held it. By the time we were on the last set, I held it, I think, for 3 minutes and 20 seconds, where I was holding my breath. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is incredible. But yeah, it's just oxygenation. The energy is there. It's really good to do when you're hitting that hump, midday. Just have a little breathing session. So yeah, I love it, man. We can go on that for hours. So Tony, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and reach out, find out about what you're doing as an entrepreneur, find out about 10X TV, what's the best place to find you?
Two ways. So you can go to 10xtv.co, not com, but 10xtv.co, if you're looking to get into TV. And then if you want to go to my personal website, I've got more information about me at tonyjavier.com. That's TonyJavier.com.
TonyJavier.com. Yeah. Gotcha. Are you active on social media?
TonyJavier.tv is my Instagram handle. Just had to restart that because my Instagram got hacked and had to start over, which was, not very fun. But yeah, TonyJavier.tv is my Instagram handle.
Perfect. And we'll have all that stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much, man. It's a different perspective, definitely, and totally, outside of what we normally talk about, right? We're always talking about conversions and clicks and conversations and cold calling and that sort of thing. But TV is one of those things that, yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't normally come as first thought, right? When it comes to marketing. However, the way that you guys do it, you have that effectiveness factor, and then you have the affordability factor, and you've been trial and erroring this thing for the last 10 years. So thank you so much for shedding light on that and stopping by and dropping golden nuggets on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Good to be here, dude.
All right, there you guys have it. Stay focused. You got this.